Hey guys, this is Illusion Podfic, and today we're going to be reading Green Through and Through by another _ Robin. This is Chapter 4. Peter wakes up on the roof and everything hits him all at once. The taste, touch, feel, hear, smell of the city around him. He feels like he's going to be stretched over the whole city and he's going to snap. It's utterly suffocating. He can't breathe through the smog and pollution in the air. He can't feel the skin on his fingertips over the base of a club 4 blocks away. He strains to taste the blood on his tongue with the burger shop down the street. It's too much, and it's going to swallow him whole. He was dying again. He can't do this again. Breathe in. He's flaking apart, swirling through the air, dispersing before he can grab all of his pieces and stitch himself back together again. He wraps his arms around his body in an attempt to keep himself whole. It's not working. He's going to lose all of him. He won't. Can't. He's hold. He's breaking. Breathing? Breathe out. Breathing. Breathing is good. Good. Again. Golden instructions settle over him like snow, calmly fluttering through the air around him, shielding him from the rest of the world. Calming his racing heart, holding his shaking hand as every scattered piece of his mind and body slowly being fitted together again by dozens of gentle hands, tenderly redirecting his senses back towards them, sifting out the rest of the world. Each sense honing in on one thing and muting everything else. Soon the world shrinks down to the sound of his heartbeat, the smell of the storm, the sharp gravel under him, blood on his teeth and the roof he finds himself on. He doesn't know how long he lays on the rooftop, slowly drifting back to himself, long enough that the dawn light that had once stunned and blinded him has faded to the muddy purple of twilight. He shivers, shoulder to shoulder with the golden angels that put him together again. They're urging him to get up and find shelter before fading to no more than whispers in the wind. He is alone again. No one is coming. He has to do this himself, even if his legs feel like lead, and he's unsure on whether or not he'll crumble if he moves. He tries to pick himself up with trembling hands, but glass. Glass? Oh right, the glass. He sits up on his knuckles and knees and inspects his hands. He has a couple of large shards embedded in his hands and heels and thumb, which he pulls out with a little fuzz, just a couple spurts of blood that he smothers against his legs until they clot. The trickier part is going to get all the smaller fragments out that have already healed over. There must be at least 10 smaller glass splinters in each hand. He surveys his surroundings and sees one of the larger shards. Wincing, he uses it to cut into his palms before placing back on the rooftop and gingerly picking the smaller glass flakes and random bits of gravel out of his hand. Only once he's certain that his hand is cleared does he press it against the legs of his shorts and wait for the blood to congeal. He repeats the process with his other hand and feet. Thoroughly exhausted by his breakdown and healing, he just wants to rock back on his heels and collapse back onto the roof. He fights to keep his eyes open, but the slow beat of his heart is lulling him to sleep. Someone had told him to move. He was inclined to trust them, no matter how fuzzy they were around the edges, but his spider senses is blissfully quiet in a way he had forgotten existed, and he was trying. He was falling up. Warm hands hoisted him up to his feet, gently pushing him forward like a gust of wind. Okay then, he's up. Now what? He waits for the air to answer him before realizing that it won't. Okay, well, even he can admit that this roof isn't the best place to stay. So he has to get off the roof. But how? He could probably jump to the next rooftop, but then he'd be back at square one. He could jump down to the street level and wander around until he finds someone, but he finally feels safe on the rooftop. And from what he remembers about the streets here, they weren't safe. He's pretty sure that there's a saying about this, something about rocks. The memory is too far away to even attempt to remember, so he lets it drift away. Eventually, he decides to use the streets until it gets too dark. Then he'll climb back onto the rooftops. That way, if he collapses, he'll be slightly safer. To be honest, he's quite proud of himself for coming up with a semi-decent plan. Before he gets down to street level, he snags a t-shirt and a pair of baseball shorts off of a washing line. This upsets something deep in him, like he was doing something bad, but he isn't sure how to correct it. Golden voices that sound too loud to be thoughts try to reassure him, with words he can't understand. He decides that he trusts them for now, but he would return the clothes later. Peter had forgotten how tedious walking was. It's slow and repetitive and mind-numbingly boring. He can remember flying above streets that look like these ones, but he doesn't think he can fly, so he must be remembering wrong. He hasn't seen many people around. The ones that he does spot doesn't look like they want to be seen, so he pretends that he doesn't see them. He must look really weird because the people keep staring at him. It can't be because he's dirty and bloody, because they're all dirty and bloody too. So he doesn't know why they keep staring. Some of the people try to approach him with pockets that stink of gunpowder, but he quickly moves away from them. He doesn't want to talk, so he leaves them alone. He knows that it's rude and mean to pretend to not notice them, but he can't bring himself to be around people after almost hurting that kind man in the red helmet. Lots of the different buildings around here look the same. only differentiated by the colorful swirls over the metal. They all have wooden planks over the doors and the metal over the windows. He thinks it's to stop people from getting in, even though he could easily get inside. Most of the buildings are even empty of human heartbeats, but his spider sense doesn't seem to think they're safe, so he moves on. And it has nothing to do with the indistinct memory of a building like that falling on him. Eventually, he stumbles across a brick building that radiates safe, calm, warm, and he knows that he found somewhere that he can stay. He strolls around the perimeter looking for a way in. Like the other building, the doors and windows are blocked. Obviously, he could get in through them anyway, but people in this place seem to have a habit of following him, and he doesn't want to be found right away. And bit metal bars over windows are a pretty clear sign of his location. He notes that he can't hear any heartbeats bigger than a rat's in the building, and the odd smell of old paper emanating from the inside, and wonders what the building could house. After a while, he decides to scope out the roof. After all, roofs are safest. He is pleased to find a roof access door. He wheels the doorknob and is mildly annoyed to find it locked. He braces one arm on the wall beside the door and tugs with a bit of his strength. The handle is crushed, but the door is open, and only slightly hang off its hinges. The first thing that he notices is how warm the building is. He hadn't realized he was shivering until he stopped. The second was how many books there are. Each wall is filled with them. From ceiling to floor is books, books, books. And there's still more, stored in shelves and stacked on tables, all blanketed in thick layers of dust. It's dark and warm and perfect. He spots a seat covered in a white sheet and collapses onto it. He is asleep before he hits the cushion. Alright guys, and that is the end of chapter 4 of Green Through and Through by Another Fucking Robin. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you in the next chapter.